The story remains the same, as many bank customers are still having a hard time receiving the local currency in cash as they grapple with the scarcity of both the old and the new notes.
All the money many people are spending now is still the old notes, and what I have with me right here is even the old notes. And the fact that I got the old note, it gave me a very strong challenge.
So people prefer to be using old notes in substitute of the new notes, because why? I cannot just go down to the bread seller to buy something without having a new note with me. And if I have old notes with me, they will prefer to take it because there is scarcity of the new note.
We visit some banks in the Ikeja business district, and while some of the well-known commercial banks had no supply of the Naira notes, a few of the new generation banks were able to meet the financial needs of some desperate customers. When asked about the recent judgment by the Supreme Court ordering a halt to the deadline pending the hearing of a suit brought before it by 3 state governors, some bank customers expressed mixed reactions.
It's good. To me, I feel this is some level of concern from the government or the people who have gone to the court to seek for an injunction to reduce the stress the common man is going through right now.
I heard the news this morning that they've extended to February 15. And about the new old notes, that old note, people have contributed all their money at the bank. Even in the market, you cannot, those market people are not collecting old notes again because no transfer. POS, they are collecting 2,000 for 10,000. It's not possible now.
There is no doubt that the acute shortage of cash to bank customers has created uncertainty across Nigeria's financial system for several weeks now. They are appealing to the federal government and the central bank to alleviate their plight by ensuring adequate supply of the new Naira notes.
Thank you for joining us. That report is, I don't even know how to describe it, but it just tells you what is happening, and it's happening all over the country.
And it doesn't discriminate your status. I mentioned Mr. Femi Adesina the other time. Says it's not 2, it's 1 week. That where he started with 6,000, and when it shrunk to 2,005, he became gentle. In 1 week, became gentle.
You have to. Once you have some of these new currency with you, you are very frugal how you spend it because you don't know how and when you're going to get the next lot. And the next lot, you may just be at an ATM that you don't have the ATM belonging to a bank which is not your bank, and you're not allowed to take more than 2,000 naira. And what I ask is, what am I supposed to do with 2,000 naira? I get on this queue just to collect 2,000 naira?
In Lagos.
That's the way it is. So the current scarcity of notes is taking its toll across the country, and people continue to vent their anger regarding the impact of this policy, or should I even say the non-impact of it. The National Council of States 2 days ago, yes, has asked the central bank to print more notes or recirculate the old notes. But of course, the Security and Printing
and Minting
have come out and said that they do not have the capacity to print notes to the quantity that is required by Nigerians. So why did the CBN embark on a policy which it could not see through? And why did the Supreme Court rule 2 days ago that the CBN cannot stick to the deadline of the 10th of February? Well, we have 2 lawyers in the House who will help us look at that particular aspect of the matter. Well, one of them had pulled out something from his pocket and said to us that he'd been carrying that bunch of money around for the last 2 weeks.
It's not up to 10,000.
So,
when you said bunch, I was wondering.
Well, in light of things happening to Nigerians now, it is a bunch. Because it is more than 5. And don't forget that some ATMs only allow you 2,000. So if you have more than 2,000, like I said to you this morning, with my 10, don't talk to me anyhow.
Yes, Mommy, I'm humble.
Our 2 legal practitioners, Mr. Monday Ubani, good morning.
Dr. Monday Ubani.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I apologize.
You know, it's a long time I saw her. My status has changed.
Okay.
Including the new Naira notes.
That will allow you to collect money from the ATM, don't worry. We also have Mr. GT Ogunye with us. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My apologies. Just to be clear to Nigerians, because there are those who are wondering what's the position of Nigeria now. It's someone said that the Supreme Court is not just a court of law, it's also a court of policy. Based on what the CBN said, Mr. Ogunye, and the fact that the Supreme Court does not issue legal tender, it's the CBN that does that. The Supreme Court has made a pronouncement. The CBN has not made a pronouncement to the effect. The federal government, through the AGF, has said they will comply with it, but we do not have any information from the CBN yet. Can people spend their old Naira notes today, February 11?
Unequivocally, I will answer that question in the affirmative. Nigerians can, and indeed here, speaking very responsibly, I will encourage them to continue to spend the notes. I won't even call them the old notes.
Okay.
The notes.
Okay.
Because if by yesterday they were destined to become old notes, by the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, life has been breathed into those dying notes, and therefore they become legal
alive
again.
Okay.
So they can do that. Section 287 of the Constitution says that the decision of the Supreme Court is binding on all authorities and persons. The CBN was not a party to the matter. The AGF was a party, and the AGF has said that they will comply. In any case, it's not open to him, regardless of how preeminent vis-a-vis the other ministers his position is as the AGF, whose office specifically, unlike the other ministers, is created by the Constitution, Section 150, vested with power under Section 174. Regardless of the preeminence, the AGF is not an appellate authority over the Supreme Court. So it's not open to him to debate whether he's going to obey a decision of the Supreme Court or not. Once that pronouncement is made by the court, all parties.
Okay. Dr. Bani, Mr. Ogunye says that we can spend that money.
Yes.
But you well know that there's hardly any market woman in this country who's going to collect that money from you. So where does that leave us with that ruling?
That's why we need education, and that's why you brought us here. The position is that the Supreme Court, through an interim order, asks that the status quo be maintained until the matter is resolved on the 15th. That is on Wednesday, when there will be hearing on the motion on notice that was filed by the 3 states. It's an interim order. Okay. And so everyone is bound to obey. He said it. The Supreme Court decision is binding on all authorities. All. Whether Central Bank was a party to it is of no consequence. It's a federal government policy in which 3 states felt aggrieved, and they rushed to court with affidavit of urgency. Oh, my citizens will be involved. They will suffer irreparable damage if we don't do anything. So without putting the other people on notice, it was an ex parte order. Maintain order until we hear the motion on notice. So every person is bound to still keep on collecting the old notes until the Supreme Court rules otherwise. It's only Supreme Court that has given life to that decision to end the old note yesterday. So we have to wait until the Supreme Court has the final say. And I tell you, this is going to be legal firework on Wednesday, because the Attorney General has filed what we call preliminary objection, challenging the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, whether it has authority in the first place to assume jurisdiction over a matter that ought to. So it's going to be, if I have money, I want to be in Supreme Court on Wednesday. I will travel from Lagos to be in Abuja. It's going to be interesting.
But, you know, that also raises another issue.
Yes.
Why is the... what would be the basis, at least for, as at this point, we have a position of law,
yes,
right? So there are those who argue that the CBN, the Supreme Court does not have jurisdiction over any case that involves the CBN,
yes,
but has jurisdiction over issues that concern the federal and state governments. So on that basis, is that a direct or indirect affiliation of that case to something that is...
Let me say this. In any time you file a matter and there is issue of jurisdiction, which is a threshold issue, it is the same court, that court, that will determine whether it has jurisdiction. I don't know whether I've made myself clear. Nobody outside the court will now begin to say, oh, Supreme Court does not have jurisdiction. No. Let Supreme Court decide that it has no jurisdiction. So let people, central bank shouldn't be a party, and because it's supposed to be a party, wasn't there, the court has no. No, it's not for you to decide. It's going to be an issue that the Supreme Court will sit down, look at all the environment of all the parties, look at the authorities, look at decided cases, precedent that has been established, whether it has jurisdiction. It is when the Supreme Court says it has or it has not, we can now say so. For us now, nobody should speculate. Supreme Court has, you can put all the laws, but Supreme Court will decide whether it has, and that is on Wednesday.
Mr. Okoye, did this suit go through the process it was supposed to go through before reaching the Supreme Court?
Now, the suit was filed, and more are being filed, by the way.
On the same issue?
Yes.
River State,
Kano
State, Ondo State, and more states may join. Was filed, the original one, under the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has two principal jurisdictions. One, original, the second, appellate, in which case cases will snake their way from the High Court through the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. But under the original jurisdiction of the court, states will go to the Supreme Court directly, or the federal government, if there is a dispute. And what that section says is that if there is a dispute between the federal government and the states, or amongst the states, a dispute that insofar as the dispute involved is concerned, involves question of law or fact, that the existence or extent of a legal right is being canvassed. A legal right, any legal right. So it's a broad jurisdiction. And so what the states have done is to say, look, as is explained, this currency swap policy is ongoing and the deadline has been fixed. People still have this money. They don't have access to banks. They cannot change this money. They will be ruined by this policy. And so, save us. And the Supreme Court intervene in the interim. Now, a lot of people outside have said, lawyers, some of them lawyers, have said that the Supreme Court lacks jurisdiction. The matter should have been commenced at the Federal High Court. The CBN is not a party to the action. The CBN has been sued and all that. I'm not sure they are reading their law very well, those who are saying that. Look, you can criticize judgments of the court, but it is wrong to assume that the justices of the Supreme Court are not abreast with the law. A court has the power to even raise the issue of jurisdiction so motu. So it is not you, an outsider, that will tell them that they don't have jurisdiction. If they knew that they had no jurisdiction, even before the other party will raise it, they will raise it first and say, no, satisfy us on the issue of jurisdiction. They've not done so, and they've intervened. In any case, if you look at the CBN Act, in spite of the statutory fiction of absolute independence being parroted by people outside, particularly because Section 1, subsection 3, and because Section 17, that says that it has the sole authority to issue currency and legal tender. The CBN is an agency of the federal government. The board under Section 6 is constituted by the federal government. The governor is appointed by the president. Deputy governors, all the officers are appointed by the president. Even on the issue of currency, if you look at provision of Section 17, 18, and 19, in designing, first, after agreeing that they want to change currency, the president will have to approve of it, including the design. If the president does not approve of it, it doesn't get done. So in essence, the power that is being challenged includes the power of the president to approve a change and to fix a time as provided by Section 20, which the statute says must be reasonable, meaning that the state can go to court and just raise a limited issue. In the circumstances, the time of 1 month, was it reasonable? Based on the facts. Just on the reasonableness.
It was more than 1 month.
Reasonableness of administrative action. In administrative law, they can go there. And so when people just stay outside and in a jumpy manner start talking and pontificating about, oh, they don't have jurisdiction. If this, look, that interim order came on a platter of gold. Because it was a fiasco. It was a mess. People can't have money. I can't access my money. Our office cannot access our money. People are trading in Naira in a lifetime when there is no war. People are rationing currency as if we are rationing food in a war situation. It's very terrible. It is because of our disposition to permit all sorts of egregious acts in the name of statecraft. The banks that are being burned now, who's going to indemnify them? The banks that are being set up, who are scaling the fence, who's going to reassure them?
Yeah.
Okay? And look at the crisis that we've had. You know, the burning and looting, and we hope that it will not continue any longer. So it was a fiasco. And now they are saying they don't have papers. Who sets an examination question and says that, look, there are enough question paper for you to what are they saying? And I know from the moment they started prevaricating and not talking to Nigerians in a transparent manner, that this is a question of lack of capacity. Yeah, the president approved of it. He's a patriot. He wanted it to be printed in Nigeria. In time past, they were printing it overseas. They didn't tell him that they didn't have capacity. They misled him. He had a duty, though, to ask questions because he inherited the CBN governor and he tolerated him. His excesses, all the things that the CBN governor should not be doing, the CBN governor has done it under his watch.
And he's got
away with it. So he's his own CBN governor. He should own him. So the point is that he should ask questions. He didn't ask questions. Now they are telling us, you know, we have no papers.
So what do we do? We will not get money for how long? How many months?
And to the order of the Supreme Court for salvation. Don't even go there and challenge any jurisdiction. Say, thank them very well for making you not to lose face.
Okay.
And then extend it into 6 months.
Well, Dr. Obadi, so on the one hand, the position of the Supreme Court is there, and you've said that right now, as at this morning, we do not have any note that is invalid.
That's right.
Every note we have is legal tender as at this very day.
I agree with you.
But then, what do you make of the position of the Council of State on this? I don't know if the decision of the Supreme Court was in consideration when the Council of State met and said, advise the federal government to print more notes or let the old Naira notes remain in circulation.
That's advisory. That's what the council does. Anything they do is advisory. As I said earlier, the position of things as it stands today is that the old currency and the new currency are valid. Nobody changes that until the Supreme Court, says otherwise. My brother has gone further. And of course, you can see his anger, and everyone is very angry. Nigerians are not smiling.
No.
With the situation of things, and people think that even the Supreme Court justices are not human beings. And I'm sure those judges, we didn't have access to money too.
They didn't have money.
they didn't have money too, so they don't live in the moon, so they're all human beings. So they saw that it's really, really, really a big problem. But if something is not done in the interim, in order to ease the confusion that was actually brewing.
Speak to the issues that he raised about indemnifying the quantum of destruction that has gone ahead.
Yeah.
ATMs have been destroyed in various parts of the country.
That's right.
There's been a lot of riots, protests.
And they were set up,
yes,
here and there,
yes,
all over the place, all over Nigeria. Now, what should be the position of the law on that? Who should be doing what? He spoke about those bankers scaling the fence of their office. The bankers that have been attacked. I don't know if you saw that video.
I saw the viral video of a lady.
That was attacked
really
simply because she was a banker in a particular bank. In fact, a number of banks have said, look, we will only open our branches where it is safe to do so. I saw a bank, put out that kind of statement.
Yeah.
In other words, if it is not safe, we will not open the banks. And what does that mean? You will not get your money.
That's right.
Where do we go from here?
See, he mentioned briefly the issue of capacity in leadership, and it's a general issue. The moment you don't have capacity to do anything, the ripple effect, on the citizens, can be very devastating. I mean, we're just getting to know now that you didn't have capacity to print the currency. You just suddenly develop a brainwave, you want to change your currency, and you don't have that capacity. Was it right for you to embark on that venture and advising the president to go ahead and do it, knowing fully well the kind of hardship that will occur generally? Who are we going to hold responsible in the light of what he has narrated has happened? Banks were being burnt. People were scaling fence. People were beaten up. Is it right? So somebody must be held responsible. So I'm saying that it was wrong for federal government to have embarked on that policy if they were sure that they don't have that capacity to carry it through. So all of us are suffering. For the first time in my life, I go to bank, a banker is giving me 5,000 naira and he's asking me to ban and hide it. Don't allow others to see it. Yes, sir. He was asking me to hide my money.
Your own money?
Yes, I should hide it because there are people who were there who couldn't have access to even 1,000. So he was asking me to hide my 5. He was giving to me. This is my 5. Since how many years I've been practicing law, me go to bank to go and collect 20. I have not done it before. I'm talking about 20. He was giving me 5 and he was asking me hide it. So it is general. I'm happy that the federal government, Femi Adesina,
and you responsibly...
I hid it because I had to be responsible enough to listen to his advice. I hid my money.
Be an indictment on the
because he does not have for others who are waiting.
It could be an invitation to chaos.
Yes.
So, gentlemen, it is issue of capacity.
You
issue of leadership failure in Nigeria
for
what we are undergoing at this critical moment. So the Supreme Court came to save the situation. That decision was proper. And I know that the Attorney General has challenged the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. We will await the pronouncement whether Supreme Court has jurisdiction over the case.
But speak to the angle that the AGF's office raised.
Yes.
Talking about the case being against the federal government and not the federation and all of that.
Let me just tell you, it is issue of semantics. When you say federation and federal government, as you rightly pointed out, this was a policy of the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria. It was the president that authorized the change of currency and all that. Even the extension of time to 10th of February. He went to go and meet him. I think he met him in Katsina, and the president said 10th of February an extension. So you join the Attorney General, who is the legal officer of all agencies of government, as a party. Now your argument will be, is there a legal dispute? which is what it says, Section 232 of the 1999 Constitution, is there extent of legal right or privilege, that accrues to the state for which there is a dispute now between them and the Federation? The Supreme Court will decide all that. My brother has gone ahead to say that the Supreme Court, I won't say that. Let the Supreme Court look at all the decided authorities. Look at the situation critically and say, do we have jurisdiction? And let them go ahead and pronounce it. Now that the Supreme Court did not raise it from Motu, but a party now has raised it and brought it before them and is filed properly, the Supreme Court will decide it first and foremost, whether it has jurisdiction. So I won't say that they have or they don't have. They will be the one to say they have it or they don't have it. Well, it's very important, very important. With their own mouth, let them say, with the decided authorities. No, I won't go further as a lawyer to say that. Then the Supreme Court says, I have jurisdiction.
Just one moment, I want you to speak to that same issue of the argument of the AGF's office about the Federation being different from the Federation of Nigeria being different from the Federal Republic of Nigeria or the Federal Government of Nigeria as part of his argument to the Supreme Court.
The slippery slope every lawyer in the public realm, works is that you are expected to be circumspect. Lawyers are officers of the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
That's right.
That is how you are called to the bar. Solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. You have responsibility to the court. And one of the responsibilities is that if there are live issues before the court, you don't delve into them to discuss the merits and all that. But now, an AGF who has been sued, who is a party to the matter, who should be tongue-tied on the matter and speak in court, is making an argument outside. That's the height of it. And is the head of the official bar, right? Okay? But what we do here is to balance in the public interest. Because this is a matter of public issue, whereas we are in other democracies in the United States. The Supreme Court, they went there and protested and people are talking and all that. Yeah, we know that. But we balance. We won't discuss the merit of it.
That's right.
How it will go here and now. But let me just say, given the little law that I know, the Attorney General of the Federation is the Attorney General of the Federal Government. The Auditor General of the Federation is the Auditor General of the Federal Government, because all the states have their respective Attorney General and whatever. So the semantics and the woods being forced out of the trees, which I can't see, that, it is, there's no dispute between the states and the federal government, between the federation and all that. I don't understand it. And the last point I want to make on that is that, look, the CBN is an agency of the federal government, given all that I've said. And the federal government is a disclosed principal. I won't say further than that. He knows what I'm talking about. So those who want to amuse themselves that a matter as grave, because this matter is very grave.
It is.
It's grave. The economy that was on crutches before, we are not even being surveyed. Do you know the impact of this thing on people, on people's economies, on their lives? When you want to reflate the economy, I'm not an economist, but I hear them say that a lot. We have to encourage consumers to spend more, Now you are telling me that you have 5,000 that you have been carrying for 2 weeks, meaning that you are not spending. Their needs, you are not spending. The economy will be tanking, and election is coming. And I keep wondering, what's this all about? You are telling us that this policy is so good, it's for our own benefit. It should have occurred 12 years ago. This administration came to power 2015. 2016 didn't change currency. 2017, 18, 19, and 6 months to his, or 7 months to the end of his tenure, a dummy was sold. You are a good president, you are strong on corruption. You did this in 1984 when we had the 53 suitcases saga, so you can do it again. So you did that 12 days then, so you can do it in 1 month. Who does that? In an economy as big as this, in a country as diverse as this.
With about 70% of the economy being SMEs.
And then you rush it through and say, yes, we want to fight illicit election financing. So that argument is this. An anchor, that argument is this. Anytime Nigerians are saying, suffering the effect of bad policy, they are told, no, just tolerate it. it is for your own good. It is to fight corruption and all that. So Nigeria must die because you want to use a policy to fight corruption. I think they should just bury the...
They should spell it.
They should squelch it.
Staying with you, Mr. Ogunye, seeing as the CBN has started something it knew it could not complete, would you say the CBN or the government had ulterior motives?
Well, it is said that even the devil himself does not know the thought of man, right? This conventional saying. I've tried many times to psychoanalyze the administration because of the contradictions of policy somersault, incoherence, even statements not being announced, rising to the... Leadership is about leading. Look at what is just said. Okay? A matter as grave as this was coming and all that, as of today, we now had a pronouncement to say immediately after, this is the direction, this is what we are going to do, so that the economy will be stable. The CBN is called core duty is to encourage economic stability. Is there in his act. How can an agency created to ensure and guarantee economic stability becomes an agent of instability in the economy and uncertainty in the economy? So I won't go as far as talking about ulterior motive. I'm just wondering the wisdom in implementing a policy that could have been implemented if it's a statutory requirement from day one. But when you situate this in the context of an administration that came to power and for 6 months couldn't form a cabinet, you will say that, well, even till the last day. Because this is not the only policy that rankles. The other time I read about census, I say, Naira change, election, census. Are you kidding me? So, government is about setting forth at dawn. And I'm referencing Oleshoyinka's book. It's about hitting the ground running. It's about being prepared for the task of governance. Okay? And so, I won't suggest any ulterior motive. All I know is that this must rank as one of the most ill-digested, ill-conceived, and ill-implemented policies of this administration. Because it's a fiasco. Now, if you have to go overseas and start, they said they placed an order for papers. They don't have papers, they went to print. And what's even worse? Because I was talking about indemnity, I'm serious about it. Right of action of these banks. For about 2 weeks, the bankers serially were portrayed as hoarders, economic saboteurs and all that, just because you have 1 or 2 cases of money being piled in the whole country. And so, on that occasion, yes, all the anti-corruption agencies, and I've been so supportive of these anti-corruption agencies, but I am angry that they went about releasing tapes, demonizing the bankers, and saying that they were the one hoarding. They didn't come clean. They didn't come out to tell Nigerians that, sorry, we lacked capacity. We didn't have we were not printing enough. Now, people were now venting their anger on the banks. Nigerians we saw this unusual spectacle of Nigerians storming banks and stripping themselves naked. In this country, we are almost on the verge of what happened in Algeria. That started
so the CBN owes us an apology.
That started that Arab Spring. Okay, so I won't talk about tyranny. I just talk about general irresponsibility and incompetence.
Dr. Bani, have you noticed the lack of action of the orientation agency? Normally, when things like this are about to happen, people are made aware. There are jingles, the road shows, all kinds of things happen. In this particular case, nothing like that at all.
Have they operated for the past 20-something years we've been in democracy? I'm talking about those agencies, that are supposed to inform educate, and carry what we call serious advocacy on some of the government policies. What we hear is just when it is time for them to defend their budget before the National Assembly. They will be there, timelessly and very efficiently to defend their budget, after which they go to sleep. It's an indictment, actually. This is a policy of government that you require that oriented that agency, they are into orientation. They're supposed to carry out advocacy. They're supposed to carry out, learning. Making people to be aware of this government policy and why certain things are happening. Do you know that, as my brother rightly pointed out, there is discordant tone even up to the reason for the policy. We hear that this is targeted against the politicians, who will be engaged in vote buying. That's what they told us. Now, do you see any of those politicians on any of the queue? Do you see politicians on the line trying to jump fence in order to enter the bank? Any of the politicians that is targeted? The policy is targeted.
The governor of Kaduna State said one governor took 500 million.
A bank manager gave to him in the house. So you target it against the politician, but the generality of Nigerians are the ones that are suffering. We are under serious pain, by your policy that is not well thought out, that is not well implemented. And as somebody has rightly pointed out, the central bank governor just yesterday now came up with the issue that, gentlemen, I'm sorry, we don't have the capacity to print enough. And so you are coming up with such an explanation at this later on, whereas you have indicted the banks as being the culprit, that they're the one holding the money. And then you set up the banks, set them up, and the people start attacking the banks. Now you are coming up to say you don't have the capacity. So who do we hold responsible?
It's like a pilot flying a plane and say that, sorry, media.
Hey, there's no fuel. There's no fuel. No, on a serious note, sir, that is actually what has happened in this particular case. We are just getting to know that they don't have enough material to print the money. But you were telling us you had enough. You went all over saying that you are prepared for it and other you were not prepared for it. So we are going to hold Emefiele responsible. We must hold him responsible.
Interestingly, my apologies, cutting on. Interestingly, both of you are human rights lawyers.
Yes.
Now, what are the cases, quote unquote, cases against the CBN now from the people?
I tell you, there are many cases that will come up from this. Especially those that the man that went to the bank and and everyone now knows everything about his privacy. Yes, now he has the right of access.
Right to privacy is lost forever.
It's a public interest case, and I believe that the judges of this country are listening, because India have gone far in terms of public interest case. You can come with ordinary letter. I have said it. Ordinary letter now to a court that has jurisdiction, and they will hear your matter. Nobody will tell you, he didn't commence the action with originating process or with a writ of summons. Ordinary letter in India on public interest cases. So people have a cause of action against the central bank governor for what he has done, because he has misled the entire country, misled the president in telling him, oh, we are ready, and then you are not ready. Do you know the kind of suffering people have undergone? And people are still undergoing. As of yesterday, if you see the queues all over the country.
So essentially, even now, when with all of these cases of what the law calls arson, this destruction of public property going on, the police cannot even arrest.
Of course, what are you arresting them for? Because you caused the chaos in the first place. It was government action that led people to do.
The incident that happened in Akure.
Yes.
I saw a policeman. A police station was burned in the wake. It burned in the wake of this.
And somebody died.
And a police, in a plaintive manner, he was crying and wailing and said that, what is that business here? We said we have not even collected the salary. We have not done this and all that.
The policeman was.
They come to bomb our station. Is our station debunked, right? So. It's not right.
Somebody was on the queue where I was trying to collect money on Thursday, and his issue was that his housekeeper does not have a bank account because she's a stark illiterate, and he's now trying to gather 30,000 naira. He has to go to several ATMs over God knows how many days to be able to gather 30,000 naira to pay his housekeeper. Pay for January.
Yeah, January.
On Thursday, he was able to collect 5. So he still has a long way to go to get 25.
Depending on how many days.
With the worker.
Now, there's an issue, Dr. Obani, that Mr. Ogunye raised here. the complexity of the process. Before May 29, as at this moment, we have gradually dissipating fuel scarcity on our hands. We have acute Naira scarcity on our hands. Yeah. We have the elections PVC. Ahead. Yeah. We have, no, PVC is even over. We have the census coming up after the elections. But let's speak to something that arose in your response to Alero's question the other time. If this was about fighting vote buying, is it possible for people to not compromise this time around?
As you said, about fighting for whom? You say if
fighting vote buying. Federal government, the whole idea was to fight vote buying.
That was the reason they advanced.
Now, if a governor, as you said the other time, could have access to 500 million, how difficult would it be for him to buy votes?
It's not going to be difficult for him because he has access to the money. You know, it's a bank,
especially at the time when the people don't have
relationship with these politicians, and that is the truth.
Oh.
Yeah, they have, yes.
No, that's not strange. Dr. Kwakwanso said on our program when they look, if this was targeted at politicians it falls face flat because some of the bankers, some of the politicians have banks, they have good relationship with bankers.
But I tell you this, most of those bank managers were promoted as a result of attracting large sum of money into the bank through these politicians. Yes. So there's a personal relationship.
So will that politician now call you?
Yes, as I need this money.
I need 100 million now.
You must make it available. So
you don't make it. You don't make it available, and you lose the account.
Exactly.
And your bank now in turn will now sanction you that.
So the whole thing has been counterproductive.
Very counter. It's not well thought out. As Ralipo, it was not well conceived.
But speak to my apologies for putting in, so because I see that we're running out of time. Speak to that complexity of those issues coming up at this time. The CBN had to, when the INEC had to go to the CBN and say, help us, we're going to need cash. Will the census, will the NPC also go? The Population Commission also go to the CBN and say we need cash?
We need cash, yeah. So, this government did not start well. He said it, it took government 6 months for them to constitute.
It's not just because I said it.
You saw it. No, I'm saying, I'm aligning with you. Listen, it took them 6 months to constitute their government. Now, 6 months to the expiration of their government, they are creating more confusion. See, Buhari's government has taken us backward. That is the truth. And that is the truth, So they didn't start well and they are not ending well. And it all goes to speak to issue of leadership. We should be very careful in recruitment. As we inch towards 2023, the eyes of everyone should be open.
We're there already.
Yeah, we're there. So I am asking Nigerians that we should shine our eyes. Don't come up with all those primordial sentiments. Oh, we come from the same village. We have the same blood relationship. Or he was my schoolmate. Or we attend the same church. Woe betide you, because all of us are going to be, beneficiaries of whatever policy these people churn out. Leadership is key, and I'm saying that Nigerians must be careful in recruitment process. We've made our mistakes from 1960 up to date. Must we continue on that road? Nigerians think. That's what we're supposed to be doing at every station now. Radio station, television, Nigerians think we must not continue on that same path. It's only a madman that does the same thing and expect a different result.
But then the challenge here now is that of a national vision. Yes. There is nothing for people to hold on to.
Yes.
So whoever comes into the saddle as leader of the country goes in whichever tangent he wants.
But that shouldn't be. We should be able to set a timetable, a vision. This is what we want as a nation, just like other nations that have come of age. UK and all that, you see, functional society. People are rushing to all these countries. Why? Because leaders sit down and think, in 10 years' time, this is where I'm taking the country to. You look at every aspect of life, sir. You look at the issue of your key infrastructure, human capital development. In 20 years, this is where we're going to be. Look at China, sir. Look at Singapore. So it's issue of getting a national vision and getting the kind of leaders that will now appropriate that vision and run a country in a manner that all of us should be proud of. I'm saying that we have come a long way as a nation. We made all our mistakes, with all the primordial sentiment. 2015, we're all here saying somebody said change. All of us believe in the same change. But we didn't know the kind of change. But we're seeing the change. So 2023, let Nigerians' eye be open in order to recruit the kind of leadership that can take us to where we want to be.
We're 2 weeks away from that election, of doing what he's saying now. What would be your counsel to Nigerians in this light?
In these elections, I don't know whether you have noticed, before today, I've not been appearing on television and all that. I've been declining interview invitations. Truth, many. Because the enthusiasm is not there for me. Nigerians, an election is coming.
Are you going to vote?
I reserve
my comment.
Okay, fine.
You plead
the fifth. That's okay.
Nigerians, an election is coming. This is our country. There's a proverb. I won't go into the appropriate translation. It's Yoruba proverb, which says that Ente gumbanle komaroju.
Komaroju?
Okay. So you are being chased by the masquerade. You know, who is supposed to be our ancestors from the extraterrestrial realm, that just persevere. Be running. Don't let it catch up with you. As you are getting tired, as the mortal is getting tired, the spiritual is also getting tired. So Nigerians shouldn't just give up. I know, I'm encouraging myself now. Nigerians shouldn't just give up.
That's right.
You know, as they give us all this, you know, it was a fella that once sang, sorry, pardon my French, give me shit, I give you shit. So we shouldn't come with resignation and say that we're tired.
That is a good one. That's a good one.
We must continue to nurse our fledgling hope, strengthen its legs, and make it to sustain us for the long term until the enemies of our people possibly are vanquished and our society will be a better society.
That's a good place to leave it. But I would like to end with the question, how much more can Nigerians endure? We had two legal practitioners with us this morning looking at the issue of the
Who are, by the way, human rights lawyers as well.
To look at the Naira redesign policy, Mr. G.T. Ogunye and Dr. Monday Ubani. Thank you very much for coming to share your time with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us at home. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Stay with us.